We're going to get an advanced look at the 2027 draft class right now. So there's kind of some assumptions we have to make. We're going to assume that everybody that's eligible in 2026 actually gets drafted in 2026. So a guy like Lenora Sellers that might come back to school, we're not going to factor him right now. We're only going to talk about the true sophomores, the guys that are definitely their first year of eligibility is 2027. So if you guys have any players to recommend to add to the database at we-draft.com, please feel free to reach out. I upgraded this offseason, updated this offseason with guys that had good true freshman seasons, and then throughout the year I've kind of added some guys, but at the end of the day it's a community driven project. We need names to add up to the website, so please reach out. We're going to start off with Julian Sayin, man. I was so excited to see this dude play at Ohio State, watching the high school film out of California. I was so excited to actually see this guy play. The way that this dude throws the ball, how smooth everything happens, the throwing motion, he's having a great season. People are talking about this guy being a Heisman winner. I don't really disagree with that, how good of a season he's had. The athleticism as well, that's something that's not highlighted on this page right here. I just marked off the top three that I had was ball placement, touch, and the throwing motion. This dude's a quarterback's quarterback. Really just does everything so easily. I got him in the middle first round right now. This is a guy that in reality, I think if he continues to play the way that he has been in 2025, this is a pretty good first overall pick. I'm excited about Mendoza in 2026, sure, but I mean, me always I always look ahead, and Sayin's one of those guys that I would be very excited about, being the worst team in the NFL in 2026, because that means that Julian Sayin's kind of my light at the end of the tunnel. I do think that's going to be a guy that's worth getting that excited about, and of course, we're trying to project guys 2 years into the future. There's a lot of moving parts that can happen, but the way things are trending, I do think Julian Sayin's a guy that's going to be in the conversation to be first overall. Just looking at some of the other names here, CJ Bailey, a guy that's really broke out in 2025. I think he started off the season better and he's kind of slowed down a little bit, but these guys are all just true sophomores. I'm really excited to see how his college football career kind of finishes out. 6'6", 214. Love the frame, love the processing with CJ Bailey. Just some of the decision making hasn't been great, especially in the second half of the year, but a guy that, could look for a change of scenery this offseason. We'll talk about that if it happens, but I do think that's a pretty interesting name to monitor. CJ Carr's been having a great year at Notre Dame, only 1 year of tape so far, but do think that's another guy that's trending. DJ Lagway, whatever happened there, he's kind of had a bad 2025. Not all his fault, of course. He kind of bought the snake oil from Billy, if you ask me, but I do think traits-wise, DJ Lagway will be a guy that we'll talk about. Dylan Raiola just got hurt. Damon Williams as well from Washington. He's been having a great season. Heisman level season, Damon Williams at Washington. Pretty exciting player to watch. But yeah, any other quarterbacks you want me to add? We'll move on to running back now. I'm just trying to do just a really quick thing. I think this running back class has a chance to be really good. Taking a look at Ahmad Hardy, the only guy with the grade in right now. Such a strong football player, 5'10", 210. He's having a great season at Missouri. Really excited to watch him going forward. But the way that he's handled volume, there's a lot of workhorses in this class, I'll tell you right now. Ahmad Hardy, we got him right there, and then Kewan Lacey as well. We see him at Ole Miss. He's having a great season. The way that him and Ahmad Hardy have been handling volume, they look like high-end guys, but Jaden Baugh as well, another guy. You just give carry after carry. These guys are only sophomores. It's kind of crazy the amount of confidence that their offensive coaches, their offensive coordinators, head coaches have in such young football players. Then they deserve it, man. I think this running back class has a chance to be pretty special. Dylan Jones having a good season for Wisconsin as well. Jordan Lyle, you see all the names listed here. And Antoine Raymond, another guy that's handling volume. Talk about handling volume. He just had 41 carries for Rutgers. So, I mean, these names are early. You guys let me know. Isaac Brown having a good season. Just trying to be a fast thing here. Now, moving on to this wide receiver class, this is a class, this 2027 receiver class, specifically the year in position. Everybody's been talking about how good this class is going to be. Jeremiah Smith was the name. If you asked me about this dude coming out of Chaminade, I was so excited for him, and it's really exciting to see the season he's been having at Ohio State, the career he's been having at Ohio State, already as a national champion. I think he's as good as billed. I don't think that's the case for every football player in the country. I think sometimes the media kind of runs away with names and narratives, but Jeremiah Smith's one of those guys that, I'm buying the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid right now for sure with him. But talking about some of the other receivers in this class, I think what's really exciting to me about this receiver class isn't necessarily the top talent. That's definitely exciting. Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman at Auburn, he's having a really good year. We'll see if he comes back to Auburn or if that's a transfer portal guy, a one and done, and then go into the NFL next year, because that dude's a really good talent. They've been talking about those two, and then Ryan Williams. He hasn't had as good of a season as people would have thought this offseason going into 2025. I do think he's been playing good ball as the season's kind of developed. That's exciting, don't get me wrong. What I really like about this receiver class, we have about 10 names here, but the depth in it. The guys that aren't going to be those top 3 names, but the guys after that as well. Just going down the list here. Mazeo Bennett, he's kind of, we're not going to talk about him right now. But Mario Craver at Texas A&M, really good gadget receiver. I think he's developing as a slot receiver as well. 5'9", 165. You just get him the ball in space. That dude's a really good player. I'm really excited to keep following him. Makai Danzy now, at Florida State. We talk about, you hear me say track speed all the time. I don't really mean it, but, a lot of these kids were track athletes in high school, and they have good 100-meter times in high school, and that makes them a track athlete in college. It's a colloquialism. We just kind of say it. Makai Danzy is a track athlete. This dude set the all-time ACC record in the 200-meter, I believe, but, this dude's Olympic-level fast. That's real. That's not me trying to overblow his speed. No, this guy's an actual Olympic athlete if he decides not to play football, but, he's been having a really good year for Florida State despite all their struggles. Not only a guy that's fast in a straight line, I really like what we've been seeing about him from him as a receiver, the way that he's adjusted to the ball downfield. He's going to get open downfield, I'll tell you that much with the speed that he has, but he's done a good job bringing those balls in, and then kind of on those end arounds, those gadget plays, that's where you see that track speed play take over. If you want an interesting football player to follow, please check out Makai Danzy, because you watch him run and he doesn't look like he's moving fast because of how effortless everything is. He just blows by everybody. KJ Duff, another guy at Rutgers, really interesting name. 6'6", 225. This is another guy that's really fast. He's been doing a good job for Rutgers, stretching the field. I think he's on track to finish with 1,100 yards for Rutgers this year. So that's a really exciting name with the frame as well. 6'6". This guy's a guy that can stretch the field. He brings everything in downfield just because at first how fast he is and then how big of a target is. The quarterback, Callum McCannis, he can miss KJ Duff downfield. You can miss him by a whole lot and he's still going to bring these balls in. First, because of how big he is at 6'6", and second, he does a really good job adjusting to the balls downfield. So that's a name, KJ Duff. Where do I think he gets drafted? I don't know if he's a first rounder. It's so early to kind of project these guys, but I'm telling you, if he keeps playing the way that he has, we're gonna have some conversations about him. And then the other names as well. Ryan Wingo, the media talks about Brian Wesco, TJ Moore for Clemson. They both TJ Moore just had a really good game last week. But yeah, this receiver class has a chance to be really special, and not only because of the top talent. I think that right now we've seen some names kind of break out their sophomore year. We talked about them. I'm really excited to see the other names that kind of fill out this class, in their junior season next year in 2026. But yeah, that's all we got for today. We could take a look at the guys that are graded so far. Jeremiah Smith, Colin Simmons, edge rusher, the 2 guys that are listed in the early first round. But please go check this website out. Again, if you guys have any names that you want to recommend or that I should get up, please check it out. But, like I said, you can just click on these players and kind of leave your own evaluation. It's really useful if you want to store all your stuff in one place. But this 2027 draft in general, I'm really excited for, especially on the offensive side of the ball that we just talked about. We'll see about the quarterbacks. I do think Sayin's that one name right now. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys in 2026 that probably won't declare. I mean, Sam Levitt has a chance. He's probably going to be back. I said the other name as well, Lenora Sellers. So this quarterback class could be pretty good. Running back class looks pretty good. Receiver class is going to be good. I feel good about that. But we'll talk about the defensive guys some other day. You guys please let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.